Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it is January 23rd of 2023. What I wanted to do was, I made a video yesterday, or actually last night I think it was, well yesterday. And it was because I purchased in and got yesterday this holder for my cell phone, my Moto G Stylus cell phone. There's the box. Here is the cell phone, except that it has on it the case that I received yesterday, and I made a video. I made an update after I discovered Terry, one of the followers of this YouTube site, pointed out right away he watched the video when I made it, and right away, quickly gave me the what I was doing wrong, which was a stupid thing. Just shows you. I'm not going to try to make some excuse about how old I am or what's going on here and everything. I'll just say I was stupid. What I was trying to do was, I put this, let me show you the, well, I can't do it. Let me show you this first so you can look at this. Now, that's the case. That's the one I bought. That's what I paid for it from Amazon. I'll put a link, by the way, in case you're, they make well, you can see there the different colors and things they have. Okay, now back so you can see what an idiot I am. I can't think of an excuse. I put the things together the way you're supposed to. It wasn't rocket science. Well, it was rocket science, I guess, for me. What I was trying to do then was, here's the thing that clips onto your belt. That clips onto your belt. What I was trying to do was, what I was trying to do was put that in there. And of course this thing you can pull on was, there was no place for it to go. And then as Terry pointed out, I should have known, because I was complaining about, well, this isn't going to work because the stylus, it can't get out or whatever. Of course, all I had to do was just turn it over like this, and that's it. And the reason it makes sense is, this is a heavy-duty case, and so people are going to wear it to probably work, around some stuff and all kinds of things. And having it in this way, you'd have this on the outside, your screen, and if you bumped into a pipe or bumped into something working or something like that, you'd scratch it or maybe break it. But when you put it in here like this, boom, you can get to your stylus and get to all of the things you need to get to, and that's it. So I haven't tried the, now of course I owned, and still have it. I'm sending it to somebody a long, long time. Before there was a YouTube, he was a follower of, my site, Howard's Notebook, this site, So I'm going to send it to him, free of charge. And now I got sidetracked off what I was going to say. Oh, I haven't. Well, I had a stylus before, Moto G Stylus before, but I had the one that was. In fact, I was kind of like, why should I buy another one? But this, has the uh, 6.8 screen, or 6.8, So, and there's a few other things, but I have not messed with the camera part much on this yet, and there's some improvements to that. Well, not also there's some parts I didn't even when I was before using it. I just made you saw the walking and talking videos or something like that. So, but I'll be trying this out. I'm sure today I probably will go out. Probably when I head over to the mailbox, I'll do a video and try the some of the different settings that I haven't tried. And the other thing I want to try is, which I didn't with the other, and I'm not sure that it had a setting for it. For the sky at night. Because when I was thinking about should I buy, this cell phone, especially one person, I can't remember who it was, I need to come up with some way to somehow, because this happens a lot, I'll be telling you about something and then I'll say so-and-so, whatever, and then I can't find, I need to come up with some organizational way where I put those links so that I can pull it up easily. But what's next on the project? I made a move. I think you can see. Okay, there was not a desk, but a thing on the other side of this. And when I moved it over there a long time ago, I thought that was going to be so great. It really didn't turn out to be. It just ended up with the clutter on it, and I didn't gain anything. And then I tried putting a monitor on all the way over here, and that didn't work. That didn't work out for me. So I've now what I need to do is get over there and organize all that stuff that's over there. You can see what appears to be a monitor on it, and I think my undershorts, by the way. But I want to put that, there's space underneath. Well, you can see some space underneath, can you? Yeah. Well, you don't know what it is, but then there's a couple of doors that open up, and there are a lot of stuff, but with my arthritis, I hate getting down to put anything in there, or most especially, getting something out. Putting it in once is okay, except I sort of forget it's there. Let's see if you can see. Okay, you can see my printer sitting here. It's also a scanner. It's a Canon. And I've had it for several years, and I haven't had it hooked up for several years, and I was able to get by without it. The reason it's prominently there now, and one reason, kind of got that other thing away is I have an awful lot of photos, family photos. I'm not sure that we have any more than other families, but we have a whole bunch, not thanks to me. Although I was always interested in photography, and when I was in grade school, my father he was a Boilermaker, and so he covered 4 states or whatever, or the Union did, and occasionally somebody would want to sell, one of the co-workers that would want to sell something they had. I was in grade school, and he came back from Iowa or wherever he was, and came back with a .22 rifle for me. So I got woke up in the middle of the night and they gave it to me, and I slept with it. And you all thought I was a liberal, didn't you? Yeah, gun-hating person, right? Anyway, I slept with it. Went hunting with it. We weren't. Fishing was his thing. The family had a pontoon boat, and he spent a lot of time drunk on that, and wonder he didn't drown himself. But we went hunting a few times, I guess because somebody would say, hey, I've got some farmland, or so I can remember going with my .22 rifle and shooting at squirrels or something. Of course, I couldn't hit them, They were safe. And of course, my father had a shotgun. I remember one time he shot a pheasant, I think it was. Yeah, a pheasant. And when it got cooked, somebody had shot that pheasant before because there was, buckshot in it. So what am I do with these? Maybe the next time, I don't know, that'd be today or tomorrow. I have to get all these pictures out. When I get them all out, then I'm going to need to sort them. And I want to sort them in some type of an order. And then I want to create I'm thinking, if you have a better idea, let me know, a playlist, or more than one playlist. Maybe a playlist like, I was born in 1941, so say 1940 to 1950, and put in these videos that you can see, but with the story, with the picture, and then me talking about the thing over the pictures, or, if I was to do 1940, I'd have to check to see the date from a picture or whatever, but my father was working in Sioux City, Sioux, Iowa. That was during the flood. I can find out the date also by the history, because there was a hell of a flood, and Sioux City, Sioux was flooded, and I'm not sure if it was power generators or what, but my father was there, and he had us go with him. And we stayed, well, to begin with, in I think it'd be like a hotel. And I remember very little about it, except I was in the basement, so I'd have been about 4 years or 5 years old, I think. And I was in the basement of this hotel, and there were things hanging from the ceilings, tubas, drums, all this kind of stuff. The basement was just filled with stuff, and I was going around. And the janitor was down there with me, and I don't want to spoil this story, but maybe I should wait. He had something else that he wanted to show me, and he did. And I went up to the room, I guess, and I can't remember because my parents never talked about it. I went up to the hotel room or whatever, and went in, and I don't know if I thought that I said white stuff came out, or I said no white, because when I was about 40 or whatever, I just happened to mention to my mother. Well, that's when I got divorced, and I moved in with my mother for a while. And I think she said, well, she didn't want to talk about it or anything like that. And she said that, no, I went up to the room and said, let's see, no white stuff came out. And then for the first time, remember I was then 40 years old, she said, yeah, that's when your father went down and punched the janitor, and we got kicked out of the of the hotel. And I guess, anyway, I'm giving you an idea of what, if I put these things together and then with some other other information and stuff, kind of put a story together. Anyway, we got thrown out. And well, I don't want to sound like I didn't get any toys or anything, but I got, a bicycle eventually, having nothing to do with Sioux City, Iowa, but I got a bicycle, and I had one of those Western Auto, well, I think the bicycle was Western Auto. My mother there for a while, she worked, I think Western Auto's headquarters were in Kansas City, Missouri, because I remember I came from Kansas City, Missouri, and even after they were no longer in business, there was a big building there that said Western Auto on it. But I remember I got a Western Auto bicycle. I got a Western Auto wagon. I got a Western Auto would it be scooter? It had two wheels on it, and you stood on it, and then you used your foot to push it. But what was nice about it, it had, inflatable tires, that you put air in or whatever. Anyway, there was a few items that I got over the time, and I'm not saying I didn't get, at Christmas, I got, well, one Christmas, and I was like in grade school, my parents just told me that UPS or FedEx or whatever it was would be delivering my Christmas present on Christmas Eve. And there wasn't any other toys, under the tree or anything, but it came, it was delivered, not wrapped up or anything, but that's fine with me. It was a cap gun, 6-shooter, and they made caps, in a roll. They probably still do, where you can put them in a gun, and it's on a roll, and then it goes through the gun and shoots. What this was, you took out what looked like actual, shells, and the caps came, or just around one, singular, in a box. Then you put it in there, and so it was like loading a reel, we probably don't need that nowadays, do we? I think the kids, some 6-year-old kid shot here in the United States, shot his school teacher. But so I had that type of thing. But back to my story. So I don't remember any. Well, of course, I wouldn't remember some of it. I was a baby in a crib, whatever. But I remember for some reason, two toys that I got at the same time, and it was apparently. Maybe not right when we got kicked out of the hotel. Maybe it was a few days later or something rather. There was a filling station, a gas, filling stations nationwide, I guess. Well, of course, it might be. Maybe they weren't nationwide. You know how that goes. Maybe they had different areas, but their logo or their thing was a very red, about as red as this. And I think it was like a horse, but I think it had wings. And I forget the name of the gas company, gasoline, service station. And so I got that, small, made out of plastic, I guess. And the other thing I got, which now would be, I hope nobody would be selling it, but it was just a round thing with like a plunger on it, and there was a piece of flint or something that would rub on this I don't think it was paper. I think it was more permanent. I think it was like a stone. And of course, I would, be doing this with it, doing that to make the thing go around, and little pieces of metal or stone that would be also hot, by the way, would come flying off and hit me. Nowadays, that would be that's a no-no, for somebody buying or getting. But anyway, that's what I want to put these things together in some kind of an order, and then with some of them, it'll just be, hey, this is my Uncle Vince in his Marine Corps uniform during World War II, and stuff. There'll be some stuff I won't have any story to go with it, and then there'll be others, that I'll have a story, and I think that might be interesting. And it was also preserved some pictures. I remember one of the pictures that I've got in there was of my mother's family. By the way, I never called my mother. I'm just doing that so you'll know. And I never called my father, Dad or Pa or anything like that. I called my father Jim, and I called my mother Betty. I've asked several times on this YouTube site, well, before I had a YouTube site, I've mentioned that several times. Did anybody else do that? I've never had anybody say, oh yeah, we did that, or I did that, or whatever. But of course, it makes perfect sense to me. I was a little child, and they were calling each other, I guess, Jim and Betty or something. So that's what. I know the first word too. I guess I could maybe I couldn't find the exact picture, but so I was under 5, someplace in there, and my father Jim would tell Betty, when you go out today, get some B-E-E-R, beer, and right away I could spell that. That's the first word I could spell. Anyway, let me know if you think you get a little bit of an idea of maybe what I'm going to try to do. So before long, you're probably going to see a stack of old photographs here, and I'm going to scan them. First, I'm going to try to sort them together, of course. Actually, I was going to do this in the past, and what I did is just go through the pile, and I was like, this is insane. I need to sort them in, some kind of order, get them down into some kind of order. Anyway, there's a picture of of Betty's family, my mother, and they look like the Beverly Hillbillies or Hatfield McCoys or something, rather, out in front of their place in the country, the country place, not a country place, but out there with their rifles and stuff like that. That was probably common worldwide when, cameras came along, where you see a lot of the old-time pictures in a magazine or someplace like that, and a photographer would come through with his wagon or whatever, and go up to houses, do you want a picture? And something else, like when my grandmother passed away, who I called Mom, because that's what Betty called her, called her mother Mom. And Mom, my mother's mother, she had same thing I have, actually. Total heart block. And she went when Betty was little, in grade school or whatever. Her mother was not expected to live. But her mom, Betty's mom, moved in with us when I was in the first grade, and lived with us, first grade, second grade. I flunked the second grade. And I think she died in the second year of the second grade, or maybe in the third grade. And then after that, I was I had nobody staying with me. But yeah, there's some pictures, quite a few pictures of her, and I'll show those pictures and tell some stories because there's some stories. With her total heart block, she took. It was into my mind, and then when I said it, phenobarbital, which I guess I'm not sure if they use it anymore. Gives people a high or whatever. So before she moved in with us, she took an overdose accidentally, trying to feel good. And when she moved in with us, so that would have been, I was in the first grade. Um, it was my job to make sure that she only got her medicine X number of times a day, so I was in charge of the medicine, And so Mom, my mother's mother, she read to me all the great works. Well, I guess not all the great works, especially if you're like in England or something or other. But, Tarzan, Three Musketeers, but all those books that you should, Moby Dick, all those things that nowadays, or well, not just didn't just happen now, but when parents are told, read to your kids and have your kids, have your kids reading books, So she read them all to me. But I would wake up I guess in the second grade, probably not so much in the first grade, but I guess when she was there taking care of me, really, we were taking care of each other. But I'd wake up and I'd say, she'd say, how do you feel? I don't feel good. So, well, you better stay home. So I stayed home. Then also during the second grade, I got measles. I didn't get mumps. I got measles and a few things like that. What was the other one that I got? There was something I got that I thought you could only get once, but I got it apparently twice that year. And then I read later on or heard that there was like two versions of it. One was like a 3-day version, another a 7-day. I'm not sure that's even correct. Anyway, if you think of, or if you happen to see somebody who's done something like this, set up showing pictures. And by the way, we had a 8mm, motion picture camera, and of course a projector. That was before 16mm. And for quite a while, I had one video or movie that I made. Well, I guess I didn't make it because I went to a military high school, and on Fridays it was the entire day was first half of the day was regular high school, except we were in uniform at all times, and in the mornings we fell in, the entire regiment or battalion. I can't remember now which it was, in front of the school, Catholic school, by the way, and in uniform. And of course, on every Friday we were in dress uniform, because for Friday the second half was all ROTC. The high school was actually called De La Salle Military Academy, and apparently that designation academy was used because we were a 55C school, which meant, an ROTC high school. And we put more time in. There were certain requirements, We put more time in, and we're in uniform all the time. than like just a regular ROTC. Most high schools were, ROTC. Well, not most ROTC, but especially I guess when Vietnam probably came up, they probably decided, hey, let's do away with this ROTC. You might end up in Vietnam, but which I never did, by the way. I tried to get in after high school. That's why I went to a military high school. But I got sidetracked. Well, it's time to stop anyway. Anyway, if you happen to think of a YouTube site that does something like that, takes old photos. Oh, what I wanted to mention is there was these. There was one video I kept for quite a while. It wasn't good. It wasn't very good. I think my mother must have done it or something. But it was the full dress parade that we did. And every Friday, we had military or ROTC stuff that we did. And then that was capped by a, full military parade. And every time, the band would play or Sound of the Colors or something like that. I don't know about the rest of the high school students. Of course, it was all male, I'd get, chills every time, up and down my spine. We fell in, at the beginning, or every day. Our entire regiment, what would it have been? I can't remember now. I should know those things. But time passes. We'd fall in front of the school. Of course, we were in uniform with the band, with the color guard, and, the flag was raised, and, I don't think we fell in with the M1s in the morning because it would have been a pain getting them out of the rack. And then, it was taking time and then put back in the rank. Or except I'm sure we did on Friday that we fell in front of the school. But I thought that was pretty neat. But the military wouldn't take me. As soon as I graduated, I went down, and the recruiter, they were having me fill out the information, took a little test. A real small little test. If I remember correct, it was like, showed these things and like pictures. And they were all, I think, auto parts, and I couldn't, the guy was like, yes, you can get, I think it was a carburetor or, whatever. But anyway, I went down, and then he's asking, have you had any problem, medical problem? And I said, well, I'm just underweight. And I really was way underweight, by the way. I could have been, well, let me get to that. Anyway, I said, and he said, well, how much do you weigh? And I told him, and he said, you're 40 pounds under the minimum weight requirement. We will not take you. Then 2 or 3 years later, I got from the Selective Service an order to report to such and such location down by the Union Station, and there were 200 of us. Then how did I know there were 200? Did I count the people? No, we all had to get naked, and then they used a magic marker or whatever and wrote 1 to 200, so I knew there was 200 of us. But anyway, as soon as, we were naked and they had written on our chest, the doctor saw me and worked his way coming for me, I thought, what the hell's going on, And he came over and he said, have you been in the hospital? I said, no, because I was so thin. You could have used me in a concentration camp movie. And he said, you haven't been in the hospital? You haven't been sick? No. So there was 200 of a whole bunch of of course, the guys were high school, guys that had been in high school or something and played football or something. Bad knee, the doctor, he didn't even have to touch him or anything, bad knee, but, rejected, whatever. Also, a bunch of those guys, when we were getting the blood drawn, they were, fell over. I didn't, But, so then I got a card from the selective service people saying you're 1A. And I thought, damn, 2 or 3 years ago, I wanted to be in the military. I wanted to make a career in the military. And so I went down and, the guy said, oh, yeah, I've got you on. He says, everybody that gets 1A, I contact. And he said, okay, I found out later on from, like YouTube that with the recruiter, when you make a deal, it's like a contract, not exactly. I mean, if you said you wanted to be a, SEAL or something, they, but there was it was a contract, and so they're supposed to stick with it if the military, they're part of it and whatever. But I didn't know that you could. He said, well, okay, well, we need teletype repair people. And I said, well, okay. I didn't want to be exactly a teletype, but he said that's what there was. I didn't know that I probably could have said, well, can I get into the 101st, Airborne or, something like that. I didn't know there was any choice and that they had to stick with it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.